In the heart of Victorian London, amidst the fog and the flickering gaslights, a shadow loomed over the East End. The year was 1888, a time when the bustling streets of Whitechapel were alive with the sounds of horse-drawn carriages, the cries of street vendors, and the whispers of the poor seeking solace in a world that often turned its back on them. It was within this grim tapestry that one of history's most infamous figures emerged, a spectre of terror that would haunt the streets and the minds of countless people for generations to come. Jack the Ripper, as he would come to be known, was not just a murderer. He was a symbol of fear, a reflection of society's darkest corners, and a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. The identity of Jack the Ripper has been the subject of countless theories and speculations, yet the truth remains elusive. Some suggest he was a local butcher, skilled with knives. Others propose he was a member of the upper class, hiding behind a facade of respectability. What is certain, however, is the chilling series of events that began in the late summer of 1888, when the first victim was discovered. Mary Ann Nichols, a woman who had fallen on hard times, was found lifeless in Bucks Row on the morning of August 31st. Her throat had been slashed, and her body bore the marks of a brutal attack. This was the beginning of a reign of terror that would claim the lives of several women, each more gruesome than the last. As the weeks passed, the city was gripped by fear. The Ripper's second victim, Annie Chapman, was discovered in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street on September 8th. Her murder was even more savage, with her throat cut and her abdomen mutilated. The newspapers, eager for sensational stories, seized upon the events, dubbing the killer Jack the Ripper after a letter was sent to the press, purportedly from the murderer himself. The letter, filled with taunts and threats, captivated the public's imagination and added an air of sinister intrigue to the already horrific crimes. The name stuck, and with it, the legend of the Ripper began to take shape. The following week saw more victims: Elizabeth Stride, whose body was found on September the 30th, and Catherine Eddowes, discovered just an hour later in Mitre Square. The juxtaposition of these two murders, occurring on the same night, intensified the panic. The police were under immense pressure to catch the killer, and the public's fascination with the case only grew. The Ripper became a household name, a figure of morbid curiosity, and the hunt for him turned into a media frenzy. Every detail of the murders was dissected, and every possible suspect was scrutinized. As autumn deepened, so too did the Ripper's notoriety. The final canonical victim, Mary Jane Kelly, was found in her room on November the 9th, 1888. Her murder was the most brutal of all, a gruesome tableau that left investigators reeling. The sheer brutality of the crimes, coupled with the Ripper's ability to evade capture, transformed him into a figure of mythic proportions. The police, armed with little more than the most rudimentary forensic techniques and a desperate hope, were unable to unravel the mystery. The case became a labyrinth of clues and red herrings, with suspects ranging from the local population to the highest echelons of society. But who was Jack the Ripper? The question haunted the minds of detectives, journalists, and the public alike. Theories abounded, each more fantastical than the last. Some believed he was a doctor, possessing the anatomical knowledge to carry out such precise mutilations. Others suggested he was a member of the royal family, his identity cloaked in privilege and secrecy. The truth, however, remained hidden beneath layers of speculation and conjecture. In the wake of the murders, the East End was transformed. The streets that once echoed with life now felt suffocated by fear. Women who once walked freely became prisoners in their own neighborhoods, wary of the dark corners and the shadows that lurked within them. The police, overwhelmed and under-resourced, struggled to maintain order, and the community was left to grapple with the horror that had invaded their lives. As the years passed, Jack the Ripper became more than just a murderer. He became a cultural phenomenon. Books, films, and television shows have explored his story, each interpretation adding another layer to the mythos. The Ripper's legacy is a complex tapestry woven from fear, fascination, and the enduring mystery of his identity. He became a symbol of the darker aspects of humanity, a reminder of the violence that can lurk beneath the surface of society. But beyond the headlines and the theories lies a more profound story. a story of the women who fell victim to this monstrous figure. Each of them had a life, a history, and dreams that were tragically cut short. Mary Ann Nichols, the first victim, was a woman who had known hardship and loss. She had been married and had children, but the weight of poverty had driven her to the streets. Annie Chapman, too, had a past filled with sorrow, having lost her husband and struggled with addiction. Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes were women who sought to survive in a world that offered little compassion. And Mary Jane Kelly, the last of the canonical victims, was a young woman whose life had been marked by tragedy and despair. As the narrative of Jack the Ripper unfolds, it is essential to remember these women, not just as victims, but as individuals with stories that deserve to be told. Their lives were intertwined with the fabric of Victorian society, and their deaths became a grim reflection of the struggles faced by many in that era. The Ripper may have cast a long shadow, but it is the light of their stories that must not be forgotten. In the years following the murders, the legacy of Jack the Ripper continued to evolve. The case became a subject of fascination for amateur sleuths and historians alike, each seeking to unlock the mystery that had eluded so many. Theories proliferated, and with them, a cottage industry of speculation emerged. From books to documentaries, the Ripper's story became a lens through which to examine not only the crimes themselves, but also the societal issues of the time: poverty, gender inequality, and the struggle for justice. The East End of London, once a backdrop for horror, transformed into a site of historical inquiry. Walking tours began to pop up, guiding curious visitors through the streets where the Ripper had roamed. The gruesome tales of the murders were recounted with a mix of fascination and horror, drawing crowds eager to glimpse the darker side of history. Yet, amid the allure of the macabre, there remained an undercurrent of respect for the lives lost, a recognition that the fascination with the Ripper should not overshadow the humanity of his victims. As the 20th century unfolded, the Ripper's legacy continued to evolve. The case became a touchstone for discussions about violence against women, societal neglect, and the failures of law enforcement. Feminist scholars and activists began to reclaim the narrative, emphasizing the need to honor the victims and address the systemic issues that allowed such violence to persist. The Ripper's story became a catalyst for broader conversations about gender, power, and the importance of justice for all. In popular culture, Jack the Ripper became a figure of intrigue, inspiring countless adaptations and reinterpretations. From fictionalized accounts to modern retellings, the Ripper's story has permeated literature and film, each iteration adding new layers to the mythos. Yet, amid the fascination with the figure of the Ripper, there remains a collective responsibility to remember the women who suffered at his hands. The mystery of Jack the Ripper may never be fully solved, but the impact of his actions continues to resonate. The story serves as a reminder of the fragility of life, the complexities of human nature, and the enduring quest for justice. It is a narrative woven into the very fabric of society, a reflection of the darkest corners of humanity and the resilience of those who seek to illuminate them. As we reflect on the legacy of Jack the Ripper, we must also confront the realities of violence and injustice that persist in our world today. The story of the Ripper is not just a tale of horror, it is a call to action, urging us to remember the lives lost and to strive for a future where such atrocities are no longer tolerated. The shadows of the past may linger, but it is our responsibility to bring them into the light, to honor the victims, and to ensure that their stories are never forgotten. In doing so, we reclaim their narratives from the darkness and weave them into the ongoing tapestry of history where they belong.